Welcome back to another episode of Have You Seen It? Today we're going to talk about the best and the worst movies of the year, at least in our opinion. First I'm going to throw out some stats so we can get an idea of, was this a good year? Actually, first I'm going to ask, do you guys think this was a good year for movies or a bad year for movies? Jared, do you have thoughts?
Overall, I thought it was a pretty good year for like blockbuster films. There were a number of films that I wanted to see in the theater versus I feel like in 2023 there weren't as many that I actually felt like I needed to go and see in the theater necessarily. Mm-hmm. So for me, I feel like it was a pretty good year.
Yeah. I feel like I saw more movies in the theater this year than the past couple years. Yeah. That's true. What do you think?
I feel like it was a very mid-year for movies.
Okay.
There was very little that left me wanting to run to the theaters to see something. I was like, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I was not impressed, but fair. Also I was like, we could do better.
Fair.
I thought it was a decent year. I mean, it's kind of, it feels like 2023, 2024, we're finally coming back to the theaters, after that stretch of COVID. Mm-hmm. I thought there were some good heavy hitters this year, some really good movies that were just great experiences in the theater. So I think overall it was a good year for the theater.
Cool. Yeah, I'm kind of I thought it was going to be a bad year at the beginning of the year. There was a couple things that I was interested in. And then as we got the halfway point, I'm like, okay, there's a couple more. And then by the end of the year, I feel like December, there was 15 movies that I wanted to see and a lot of Oscar stuff. So it just ramped up. And now I'm like, wow, this is a really good year. I've not to spoil anything this won't, but when I rated my movies, I didn't have any 5 stars, but I had 10 4.5 stars. So everything was really good, but not amazing was my read of the year. But yeah, cool. What do you guys think? I'm going to run through the box office, top 10 box office. Does anybody have a guess on what the highest box office numbers were? What movie?
I'm going to guess Wicked was up there.
Okay, it was up there.
And then maybe It Ends With Us, just because there was so much media hubbub. I don't know if you guys kept up with that drama, but I sure did. No. It's still ongoing for those of you that, if you know, you know. So maybe that one.
Okay, that one's not as high, but
I think Dune is probably the top or close to. I think Dune Inside 2. Out 2 is probably really high up there.
And probably Moana 2 as well is definitely up there, I feel like.
Really?
I feel like it made a lot of money.
I wouldn't be surprised, but also the general consensus was it was a flop. And so I don't know if it gained the momentum it needed to.
But here's the thing. Kids. If it's a kids movie,
right,
it's going to
make
money.
That's what I'm thinking. It's
Disney
you
movie,
get families going,
Pixar.
it's going to make money.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Somebody was right. Inside Out 2 was number 1.
Nice.
And I should say this is domestic, not worldwide.
Gotcha.
Inside Out, number 2, number 1, again, kids movie. Second one, not a kids movie, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, okay, Marvel.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, of course.
Wicked, number 3.
Oh.
That's pretty good. Moana 2.
Yep.
Number 4. Despicable Me 4, which I didn't even realize came out this year.
There's a 4th Despicable Me. How many are there now? Oh
number
goodness.
5. Beetlejuice, number 6. Yeah. Dune Part 2, number 7.
How did Beetlejuice
it made more money than Dune?
Dan's never even seen the original, so you can't be saying stuff about Beetlejuice. I didn't watch the new one, but you can't be saying stuff about it.
That's still pretty surprising.
I mean, if it was, well, we'll see. Keep going here. Twisters was number 8.
Yeah, okay.
So Godzilla and Kong, The New Empire.
I knew that would have been good. We should have watched that.
Is that sarcastic?
No.
Oh no! I don't know. Is it good?
Got a lot of really good reviews.
I don't know anything about
My
that.
mom even liked it.
Really? Okay.
I had a friend go and see it, and I think Jerry saw it, and he said that he really liked it. I don't know.
Shout out Jerry.
I feel like I didn't even hear about it.
I didn't even. I don't know.
Was it over the summer?
It must have been a
summer film.
Final one, Kung Fu Panda 4.
Oh, I should have seen that one too.
There you go.
Dang.
Kung Fu Panda, the original, great movie.
So good.
It's pretty
Such
solid.
a good movie.
I agree. I haven't seen anything
Jack
after
Black.
that though.
Again, there's 4 of them now.
Yeah, they'll keep making.
I've lost track of the animated sequels. Yep.
I mean,
yeah. So I have a stat for that. Wait, where is my stat for that? The top 13 highest grossing films domestically are all in a franchise. Every single one. Top 13.
Yep.
So that's pretty
It's
wild.
all about that money.
That doesn't mean they're necessarily all good movies, but it means they make money.
This goes to show that, if it ain't broken, why fix it? That's Hollywood's mentality in a struggling industry, I think.
Right.
And they're afraid of flops.
Yeah. So some other stats here. Oh, do you guys have a guess on how many movies were released in North America this year?
In 2024.
Is
this in theaters
Yeah.
or streaming?
No, it counts streaming.
Streaming.
Oh.
Does this also include like indie films and like?
Oh yeah,
anyone?
anything that was released in 2024 in that you could see in the North America.
So I was doing a little research, and I was crazy on IMDb, and it said something like 14,000 films released
I was
this year.
just going to say 13.
But I don't know if that was international.
That was probably
including-
international.
Yeah,
that was
international.
probably
Oh.
I'm gonna guess like 8,000.
I was going to guess 13. 'cause there's so many
14,000. Okay, no,
movies.
yeah, I don't know. No, it's not even close to that. The number that I found, 504.
Oh,
There's so many movies. I'm surprised because there's so many movies that come out on streaming. So, like when you're thinking about all the
Yeah,
different
but they're not all
streaming
they're not
services.
all released in 2024. A lot of them are old movies that
past
they're you know what I mean.
so I think
I guess.
I think what the IMDb thing I was looking at is like literally anyone can post an IMDb credit, right? So if I made something that I deemed to be a film,
Right.
It would probably
Right,
be
sure.
included in that list.
No,
So.
people make
Not
a lot of
necessarily
movies, a
in
lot
theaters?
of content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will say I use ChatGPT to find some of these numbers, so take that with a grain of salt.
Gotcha.
I
We'll have to fact
can't
check
verify.
after.
Yeah, fact check me. Please do that. How many franchise movies overall do you think there were? So there were 13 in the top 10. What's your guess on how many franchise movies?
25.
I'll go 30. A little bit higher.
20.
32 is
Hey.
the number I found.
Close.
They're pretty close, 30. Let's see. How many superhero movies do you think came out this year?
5?
Yeah,
Good
I
guess.
would guess a low number too. Probably 4.
I'll go 6.
7,
Close.
which is really low. And there was one Marvel movie and one DC movie.
Okay,
The
maybe
rest were Sony and I
Yeah.
don't know.
Maybe
probably just
that's
Sony.
why I thought even lower, because I guess I only ever think of Marvel and DC when I think of superhero
Yeah.
movies,
Right.
So.
Yeah, so that's really interesting because that's been huge over the last 5 years, 10 years.
Right.
So that's interesting that that's really coming down. How many Walt Disney pictures do you think came out?
7.
5?
8.
6.
Ah,
Right
can't
around
get
it.
anything right. right.
And then the last one here, which is mainly to contradict Walt Disney, was A24 films. How many do you think those? How many of those?
Oh,
came
they
out?
probably had like 11 or no, like 10. Maybe 10.
Okay, 10.
We'll go lower 6.
Okay.
15.
Ooh, everybody's close. 16.
16. Wow.
16 movies.
Always one off.
So
They
they're
came out with a lot of movies.
They came out with a lot of movies, and they're ramping up. So so that's kind of cool to see. More artsy,
They're not all good.
right? I mean, they're all kind of like you have to be the right person to enjoy it. Like I feel like these movies are just like pretty weird.
Yeah.
It's like
I mean, that's okay.
like you might love one, but you
Yeah.
might hate 3 other ones. Like, but I appreciate that they're making those and get money off.
Yeah.
Them, so
At least they're like supporting original ideas, right?
right, exactly. Yeah, none of those are remakes.
Yeah.
At least I don't think any of them are. I assume not. So cool. That's the stats I came up with for the year. Should we? Anything else that anybody wants to throw out there about 2024 that they liked or disliked before we jump in?
I don't know. I feel like based on the stats and like what we talked about, just felt like a lot of the movies that we reviewed on the podcast this year and everything were all sequels, and
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty.
it's like again, it's like
Everyone
cool to
was.
see original ideas, but it feels like Hollywood's just not
Yeah.
going that route.
Yeah. No, because it's clearly it's making money, so that's
Yeah.
what they're gonna do.
Let's get into it. Let's
get
find
into
out
it.
what we
Okay.
thought were.
Dan is ready to
Highlights,
start a
lowlights.
fight.
All right.
No, Jess, I think you're ready to start fights.
We'll find out.
I'm excited to share.
Okay, well, let's start with Dan then. Since he wants to get going on it. Biggest surprise of the year. I mean, that seems pretty obvious. I don't need to explain that one. Yeah, a movie that you didn't expect to be good.
Because you could also take it.
Oh, maybe I do need to
Biggest
explain.
surprise, it ended up being, well, I guess that'd be biggest disappointment. Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, biggest surprise, I chose, well, I was torn. I was torn between two movies, either Joker, Folie à Deux,
Oh, interesting.
or Wicked. Joker, because I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, especially with all of the hate that was out there. Like, I had heard a lot about it, seeing headlines about how people are upset and it wasn't meeting expectations. Was it an excellent film? No. Were there shortcomings? Yeah. It didn't execute as well as it probably could have. But I still thought it was entertaining, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. And I don't fully agree with, I guess, all of the hate it received. So I would say that was probably my biggest surprise. I also put Wicked on there just because I didn't know if I was going to like it or not. Obviously, Wicked's a huge name, and so many people love Wicked and the play, but I wasn't sure if it was going to really hold up. And when it first started, I had a hard time getting over like Ariana Grande and like seeing past Ariana for Ariana. But it wasn't long before I was like engrossed in that film. So I was surprised at how much I liked it.
Totally engrossed.
How much I have listened to the soundtrack after the fact.
There you go. Nice.
But yeah, those are my biggest surprises of the year, I would say.
Yeah, those are good.
That was also my biggest surprise.
Wicked.
No, I'm sorry. The Joker,
yeah.
Folie à Deux. Just because I struggled with this one and like the hidden gem one, which technically this was not a hidden gem because people knew about it. So this was my biggest surprise because I was expecting it to be something cheesy. Like, watch our episode where we review the Joker 2, Folie à Deux, to see the full debrief. But I liked that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and that the Lady Gaga like musical aspect of it was not what I was expecting. We just talked about how like raw and just in your face, so much of the mental health struggle that he goes through is, which was real. And 2024 movies in 2024 left me starving for some of that, except for some of the few like this one.
Nice. Cool.
My biggest surprise was also Wicked.
There you go. I knew this one was going to have some
Yeah.
repeats, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit on the last podcast, but for me, like, it was just like the marketing was everywhere, and just know how that usually goes with movies like that. And I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. It kind of blew me away.
Okay, talking about the marketing has made me just get so annoyed with Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. Like, I don't know. There's just something about their like dynamic or their interactions and how they act. How they talk, like
in all the interviews they're doing.
Yeah, the interviews and like, grabbing the finger and like, I don't know. Jessica, you said it really well when you were like, they're like such theater people.
Oh my gosh, those interviews with the definition of like theater kids in the limelight,
totally
where
was.
they're like,
Nothing wrong with
after
theater
the
kids.
show.
We're throwing that out there.
But if
I was
you know,
in
you
theater.
know.
I was in theater.
But if you know, you know. If you know a theater kid, you know.
Cool. Yeah, Wicked. I would say my biggest surprise probably is Wicked, but I wanted to switch it up so we didn't all talk about
Right,
the
so
same
we
thing.
all didn't. The same.
I do agree. I wasn't expecting to like it at all. Honestly, I hadn't seen the original, so I didn't know anything about it. But my biggest surprise is a movie called Challengers. Have you guys seen this or heard of
Haven't,
this?
but I know what it is.
Have you
I've
heard
seen
of
the
it?
trailer.
Zendaya's in it,
Yeah.
obviously.
Have you seen it or not?
No.
Oh, okay.
Is that the one where with the sunglasses?
Yeah,
are?
that's the one.
The tennis movie.
Have you seen the trailer?
I have.
And
All I
what was?
know,
Let me ask you, what was your interpretation of the trailer?
to me, the trailer was about like a crazy talented female tennis player that then is like injured and is like, well, I'm bored now, so I'm gonna like mess with these two guys and like be in a love triangle. But I feel like that trailer was a little too. It was trying so hard to be like man eater, ooh, and I was like, chill,
Yeah.
chill. You can play with these guys and. You know.
Yeah, the trailer was very misleading, I think, and that's why I almost didn't watch this. But I should say, so it's Zendaya's in it obviously, and 2 other guys. So I don't actually know.
We love her.
Yes. And it's directed by Luca Guadagnino, who did Call Me by Your Name with Timothée Chalamet, and what else did he do? Bones and All with him as well, and then I knew I pulled this up for a reason. But anyway, he Suspiria, the remake of Suspiria. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I've never heard of that.
Did
movie.
not like that one.
Didn't like that one. And yeah, anyway, so I mean, really good filmmaker. So I that's really the only reason him and Zendaya was the only reason why I watched this. I thought it might be like a Euphoria type of thing where it's just very sexualized and stuff. So that's why I was like, I don't know if I want this. But it's really not that at all. It's basically, I mean, really, there's no sex in it. There's no sex scenes that are shown. There's no nudity. It's not that at all. It's kind of, it has hints of that, but basically it's 2 really good tennis players and Zendaya they are in a little bit of a love triangle, but they're really just like obsessed with how good each other are at tennis. So there's just some really interesting things, like, when we see the tennis match, and basically it goes through a bunch of years and they all kind of have their own downfalls, and then they kind of get brought back at the end for this one match. Excuse me. For this one
He's
match.
getting choked up.
I'm getting choked up over here. It's so good. But yeah, it's just really good. Like, there's some good camera work. It's just really like fun. It was just really fun experience, and there was a lot that I just wasn't expecting out of it. So give it a shot. It's not what it seems like, and it's solid filmmaking. So
I had the same reasons for not watching it, so I'm glad
Yeah.
to hear. Now I
Yeah,
will
that's
watch
interesting
it.
to hear.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
trailer just like makes it up to
Yeah.
be what it wasn't.
I think the trailer was trying to get younger people who are fans of
Yeah.
Zendaya to come watch it, which I'm sure it
Yeah.
did. But it wasn't really promising what I was wanting. But
Yeah.
what it did was
You
actually
wanted the
what
sex?
I wanted. No, it was promising sex, but I didn't need that. And what it did give me was what I wanted, which is just some cool character piece.
Yeah.
Right.
Like interesting. I mean, it was really just about like reaching for the top level of what you do and what happens when you can't reach that, and how like you just want the top, but you can't have the top, basically.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's my kind of biggest surprise. Dan, we'll come back around to you for biggest disappointment. This one might be funny.
Well, I don't know. I had a hard time with this one, but I ended up choosing The Deliverance. So The Deliverance is a horror film that came out this year with like Glenn Close, Andra Day. The logline is: an Indiana family discovers strange demonic occurrences that convince them and their community that the house is a portal to hell.
Ooh.
So, it's your traditional exorcism movie. It follows all of the tropes, but you've got Glenn Close, who's a heavy hitter. She's a very good
Do
actress.
not speak ill on my girl, Glenn Close.
Never. Andra Day is also very good in it. So they've got strong talent. The beginning is really compelling. I was like engaged. I really liked how the family dynamic, where Andra Day is this struggling single mother with the added complexity of like her mother. And then like some strange stuff starts to happen. Like it was going in a promising direction. But then it just transitioned into like laughable horror territory. And yeah, it completely fell flat at the end. Like the things that the little kids were doing, climbing on the ceiling, and the exorcism itself, like just was completely crazy. So it had the setup for a great horror film, but ultimately didn't pay off. So I thought that was the biggest disappointment, even though I'm not really a horror person. But with the talent and the way it started, it felt like it was going to be good.
Nor is he an exorcism, like spiritual, spooky. Dan gets a little he gets a little freaked out by it. I agree, but I will say, even if you're not like an exorcism / religious person or ascribe to like this stuff or this kind of horror, I do think there was like some symmetries between like, you could kind of extrapolate like, her struggle with addiction, right? Like with being an alcoholic, and like the exorcism scene, and like, I won't give any spoilers.
That's what I'm saying. There was the potential
start.
for a good horror movie, and the way that they were setting things up was really good. But then
It did fall.
It just went into comical.
Yeah.
And it was just.
But we still love you, Glenn Close.
We do like Glenn Close. Yeah. Anyway.
Was this a Netflix release or something? It was
Yeah,
just
I feel
like
like I
a
haven't heard
streaming
of
I
it.
think it
yeah,
was
I hadn't heard
Netflix.
of that.
Yep.
Okay. I maybe saw it, but saw the name of it, but I didn't know what it was. But
Yeah.
Gotcha. What was yours?
My biggest disappointment was Blink Twice.
Oh,
I didn't like this movie.
I've heard some people do like it.
I enjoyed it.
Oh,
So
you
this
liked it?
was
Okay.
We watched it on an airplane.
Yeah, Dan watched like the first half of the movie without any audio. He was just reading the subtitles.
Oh, really?
Because his monitor wasn't working, and
That's
so then
the
he's like, "Can
worst.
I just?"
So I was just reading the subtitles, and then eventually I got invested, and I just was like, "Can I have one of your headphones?"
Which is also what happens when I'm watching like rom-coms or something. I'm like, Dan, you want to watch this? And he's like, no. And then he's like, I'm just gonna stick around. Oh, what's he doing now? But yeah, I thought it was a disappointment the whole time. I'm like, what?
What is the premise of this one?
What is it about?
So this is about Channing Tatum playing a celebrity. The storyline a little bit mirrors what happened with Armie Hammer and how it's like you really don't ever even know what he's apologizing for. Like you just know that he was canceled and he's like, I'm doing better, I'm getting therapy, I'm seeking help, blah 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 blah. And the whole premise of it is like it's kind of spooky. There's weird stuff happening on his island, on his private island that he invites these two ladies to that
he
don't know
invites
him.
multiple ladies.
He invites multiple people, but like the premise is like you're following the two ladies that don't know him personally.
Gotcha.
Which no spoilers, but you assume that everybody else does. So I just the whole time I was like, okay, the previews made it seem like it was kind of action packed, kind of like brainy, like you were gonna have to think a lot. The first half, literally, it was like 72 minutes of them partying, which I was like, I love the like, the vibe by like getting high and sitting by the pool and like, just hanging out and chilling on an island and stuff. But 72 minutes? Let's get this plot moving. Hello? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like that part. And then the second half of it, once the like plot, you're like, okay, here we're getting into like the meat of what's going on, was just ridiculous. I was kind of like, there's a ton of plot holes. Doesn't make any sense. It's not realistic, which I don't know if it was supposed to be realistic. I don't know if this was based off of like, I know Zoe Kravitz directed it. I don't know if it's some built off of like, some of the P. Diddy stuff. I don't know. Like some of that inspiration of like the things that everybody talks about with Hollywood.
Gotcha.
It was pretty terrible. It was, I don't know. I wish that it made more sense, like the snake poison stuff. I was like, what? I don't know. It was kind of a... I don't know. The whole thing to me was just like, okay,
Did
what?
you see it?
No, but I'm just saying that didn't spoil anything for me. I have no idea what
Right.
you're talking about.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, if it wasn't meant to make sense with some of the plot points, then is it entertaining? To me, it really wasn't, except for like you get to watch 72 minutes of like maybe what celebrities live like sometimes, which is like...
Was the kind of the reveal or something like what he did, or
no? The reveal isn't what he did; it's what he's doing, I
Okay.
guess, or like what's happening on the island. Because even the previews are like something weird's happening on this island, even though everything seems great. They have
Basically,
these chefs.
two
and
girls
stuff.
get invited to this
No
luxurious
spoilers.
island by a stranger that like they don't know, but this guy's famous and he's wealthy. So they go there. And it seems amazing, but it's not all that it's made out to be. And weird stuff starts happening, and people start to.
Nobody can quite put their finger on it, and then they start. It starts coming to
and
like.
then it turns a big twist.
The ending was so stupid. I was like, oh yeah, okay. I don't know.
funny? Okay,
All right.
Jared, what was your biggest disappointment?
So I hadn't seen that many films this year. So for me, as far as like biggest disappointment, it was Joker 2.
Yeah, it's
Come
one of those. It's one of those that could go.
biggest
it
surprise
could go anywhere.
and biggest.
Well, it just depends on what your expectation was going into
Well,
it.
Joker
If you
2
thought
wasn't.
it was
It wasn't
terrible.
my biggest surprise.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I think someone. Yeah, you said that maybe. Joker.
Well,
Wicked was yours.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, Wicked was mine. So for me, it was probably the most disappointing movie I saw in theaters. I feel like just the first movie was so well made, and the direction it was going, and like all the plot line they were setting up in the first one. I feel like the second one just kind of like took that and ran a completely different direction. I can appreciate a lot of things with the second movie. I really liked the musical aspect and that they were trying to do something different with it. But for me, like overall, as far as movies I've seen in the theater, that was probably the weakest one I've seen this year.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It really, if you went in thinking you were gonna like it, you probably are gonna be disappointed. If you go in thinking you're not gonna like it, you might be surprised.
And I mean, I saw it after the reviews, so like I went in kind of expecting it to be what it was, and
and
that's true. It pretty much was what I was expecting.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm with you guys. It kind of falls in the middle. Like I liked it.
Yeah.
But it could have been.
Yeah, I mean, I still like
so
aspects of it. The cinematography was really good. The acting was great. I just, as far as like certain story beats they chose to go with on the second one, I felt like it could have been better than it was.
Yeah. Okay, mine's kind of similar to that. It's a movie also reviewed. Gladiator 2.
I'm surprised that wasn't in the top 10.
It was it not? It was very close.
Box office?
It was very close. I'm trying to remember where that. It was
probably
15.
just didn't have as much time to accrue.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, that could be
end of the year.
15 was where it fell for domestic. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, I said a lot about this movie, so I don't need to say a ton about it. But basically, it was a roller coaster ride of what if I thought this was going to be good or bad. First, I was like, this is going to be terrible. And then I heard people say, "Oh, it's kind of good." So I'm like, "Okay." So I went into the movie thinking it might be good, and man, for the first hour, I'm like, "Okay," or maybe first 30 minutes, I'm like, "Okay, it could be something, and then it just kept repeating the same beats over and over again as the original movie, and then the fights kept getting crazier and crazier, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, this is not what I want." It just didn't feel like the original Gladiator at all.
Was it a revenge story again? Or?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's same. It's the same story. There are aspects that are added that are different, which I liked the best about it. But the heart of it is all the same beats.
Did Ridley Scott direct it again?
Yeah,
He did. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is what
He's 90 now.
Yeah,
Like,
but
he's getting old.
it's crazy that he's so old, and this did not feel like a movie that was made by a 9-year-old. It felt like somebody, like I was literally saying, like a 21-year-old. Like it felt like a very modern action movie, and it just didn't feel like.
Well, I bet
Gladiator
the
at
first
all.
AD probably was.
Right, maybe that was
Was
it.
like helping him,
Yeah.
do it because he kept forgetting where he was at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love Gladiator, and I wanted this to be it didn't have to be as good as Gladiator, but just almost as good, and it was nowhere near that
Yeah,
for me.
I will say I saw it in the theater again after we did our podcast on it, and I fell asleep, which never happens in a theater, at least.
Yeah. Cool. Next one, we're gonna go to Hidden Gem. This is probably the hardest one. You can interpret it how you want, but basically a movie that you think maybe not a ton of people saw, or maybe some people saw it, but a certain group of people didn't see it, but you really liked it, or something like that.
Yeah, I would say my hidden gem. Shout out to our friend Adrian for recommending this one. But Speak No Evil was my hidden gem. I think Jessica maybe disagreed with that, but
Shots fired.
I just remember, Jess, you expressed that you really didn't like it all that much.
I didn't say that.
Oh, well, maybe.
That's a misrepresentation of what I said.
Well, anyway, the log line is a family's invited to spend a whole weekend in a lonely home in the countryside. But as the weekend progresses, they realize that a dark side lies within the family who invited them.
Wait, babe, your narrator voice? That was so cool.
So I don't think it was a super popular movie in the theaters. I think it maybe had a short stint in theater before it went streaming. But
did you say who's in it yet?
I don't remember who's in it. Do you remember who's in it?
I forgot their names, but you would recognize the main actors.
No, we need to say the main actor. I'm blinking at his name.
Yeah, he's popular.
Speak No Evil. Okay.
But anyway, it's a remake. Apparently,
Yeah,
it
it's a
was
remake.
like made. There's maybe two versions of
yes.
it that have come out or something.
James McAvoy,
Yeah.
who is from Split.
He's from
he's
Split,
from
yeah.
he's really good.
But I the reason I liked it a lot, I just thought it was a really interesting concept and dialogue around, not speaking up for the sake of politeness, or kind of exploring that unspoken social contract where you don't question people's parenting style, or when you're a guest at someone's place, like you maybe don't say things that you typically would because you don't want to be rude.
Like the Dirty Sheets. There's like a scene where there's like nasty sheets, and she's like, ugh, should we say something? And he's like, don't, just, it's a farmhouse, like, chill.
Right. So there's like all these things all these red flags that they just don't like speak up on, and it like builds and builds, but they don't speak up on it just because of these just like, oh, we don't want to do that. Like it would be rude of us to do that. So I think that that's really interesting. And it's unsettling. It's a great thriller. I liked how it ended and kind of what happened with it. I will say that the pacing could have been better. Like it just took a while for it to develop. But it kind of stays in the same spot throughout the first and second act, and takes too long before the story escalates to its, the climax and into the stuff that's like, oh, okay. So anyway, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no shade to the movie at all. I enjoyed it. I think it's with the interesting mental part of it is like all the things that Dan was talking about. Like it's not just about like not speaking up to not make people uncomfortable. It's like totally things that you and I would do normally at a dinner table. You know what I mean? Where it's like if someone's saying or doing something awkward, you're like, okay, I'm not gonna clearly name the awkwardness because why would I? Right. But also it was interesting the things that we justify to ourselves in our heads of like. What you let other people get away with and the push and pull of testing that and being on the receiving end of it. That was really like, that was cool. But to me, it wasn't like a best movie of the year kind of thing.
No.
I don't think so either. I just thought it was a hidden gem.
Yeah. No, I'm just
thought
saying.
it was a very good thriller that not many people probably watched or knew about. I wouldn't have watched it had it not been for Adrian. So thanks, Adrian.
Can I chime in here? Because I did watch this.
Oh, you did?
I did watch this in the last week. First of all, it's really well made. It looks good, very well acted. James McAvoy is good. Everybody else is pretty. Even the wife, I thought the wife was really good too. Or I should say his wife.
James McAvoy's wife.
Yeah, she was just kind of like seemed so pleasant, but also she was kind of something's going on with her.
Yeah, I think she did
for
great.
sure. I didn't like it for the reasons that you said. It took way too long to get into the thing, and I was like, and it got like kind of like frustrating because it's the wife. It's like she is speaking up. She's just speaking up to the husband, and the husband's like, "No, it's fine." Just like, and that got like I got so annoying. I swear there was like 12 of these things, and I was just like, "Oh my god." That was really the thing. It just like it took too long to get it. Once I got into it, like the last part of it, I was like, okay, this is good. But that was just the main thing I did.
I did name that trope when we were watching it, and I was like, Dan, do you realize how in every horror movie the wife is like, something's off, something's not
and
right,
the guy doesn't listen
and the
at
guy's
all.
always like, hey, chill, you're being crazy.
Exactly.
And guess what happens? They're always the ones that die.
Yeah.
So I was like, so in the future, if I'm ever telling you something's off, you better listen.
Yes, exactly. Wait, did we do? No, didn't you yours yet?
Yeah, my hidden gem, I'll be quick, was Untold. It's a documentary. It's the Hope Solo versus U.S. Soccer film. This to me is a hidden gem, and I think people. I didn't even like do a deep dive on the reception of it, but to me it was a hidden gem because I came in with certain expectations of who I thought and the mistakes that I had, like preconceived notions about Hope Solo about. And so it kind of talks about all the controversies. And for those of you that don't know, Hope Solo is or was, I don't think she plays anymore, a female U.S. soccer player that was like an incredible goalie, like had so many just was in the Olympics, was in the World Cup, like all kinds of great accolades. But there was also a lot of controversies that followed her. And it kind of talks about like where she came from and her home life as a kid, and like helps you understand her more. And yes, Dan was like, oh, they're just trying to get you to like her. And I'm like, I don't even think it's about that, because I came in and I was like, they're not going to change my mind about what I think about Hope Solo. But I do think that as the story progresses, I was like, oh, there was some unexpected things that the reality behind like the stories that we saw, the viral video of her in her car, like the police cam footage, and even like the women's equal pay, like the reality behind that, where she kind of pulls the curtain back and she's like, you saw these headlines and you saw these pictures on the Instagram. No, like this is actually what's happening and what happened behind those pictures and stuff. So I thought that was the biggest hidden gem. think what you think about Hope Solo. I thought it was a really well done documentary. Even though it wasn't necessarily super balanced, they asked other people. Like technically it wasn't balanced because other people didn't want to participate. So I don't know, it peeled back a curtain of like women's sports that I think was just surprising to me in a lot of ways. It was good. I got chills. Cool. And I love a good sports documentary that just like gets to your point about challengers. Like, I'm a really competitive person. I was in sports growing up, not that good at them, but I was in them. And there's something about that, like getting amped up and like wanting something so bad, that I love about a sports film, whether it's a documentary or not.
Cool.
So.
Yeah, I should check that out. I've seen some other documentaries about the women's soccer team, but I haven't watched that one, so I bet I would like it.
I bet you would. Yeah. I wasn't as impressed because you touched it up a lot, but it felt like I just kept in my mind, because I knew nothing about Hope Solo, it just felt like a PR film. I mean, it just felt like a PR stunt for Hope, and it felt like it was trying to be two things. Is it like a biopic about Hope and her rise and her fall? Is it a film about U.S. soccer and how corrupt it is and how like horrible of an organization it is and what it did to, women's soccer? I don't know. It's
both though. I think you can't tell the story of Hope Solo and not talk about women's soccer. Like, I don't know. To me, that's tied together. And yes, it was a little PR-y. It felt a little bit like that, but I still thought it was good.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because these documentaries come out every once in a while, and some you can tell are like, oh, it's just like it's just about them, and they just want to highlight themselves. But I saw one from Netflix about like Kevin Hart after. Well, he was supposed to host the Oscars, and then they found some stuff saying not great things, right? Did you watch the documentary, or did you just know what I'm referencing?
No, I know what you're referencing, but also he came out with a show that was
maybe that's what it was.
It was a show that was like based on it, and it wasn't like a docuseries. It was like literally, it was basically like him trying to clear the air through like a fiction series, and I was like, what is this? Oh,
that's interesting. Well, I watched the docuseries about when all that was happening. Like they started filming a documentary before it happened, and then they shot a bunch of stuff after. And the whole time I was like, oh, is this just like he's paying for it? He's just trying to clear his name. But I felt like the filmmaking was pretty like we're just presenting all the facts, and you can decide what it was. And I could tell like that was my interpretation. But it's hard. It's hard to know on some of those. I agree with what you're saying. But Jared, what do you got?
So my hidden gem is also a sports film, but not a documentary. It's a biopic. It's called Young Woman in the Sea.
Oh,
you guys hear about that one?
I think so.
I hadn't heard of it either.
Is it a swimmer?
Yeah, it's a swimmer. So it's about her name's Gertrude Ederle. I'm probably saying that wrong.
Okay.
But she was the first woman to swim across the English Channel.
Oh, okay.
So it's a biopic on that, and Daisy Ridley plays Gertrude. Really good movie. I hadn't heard of it either, and my sister-in-law was like, we saw this. It's really good. Let's watch it. And so I watched it with my family. No, I watched it with my family, and it was really good. It was surprisingly good. Like I didn't know much about the story, so that piece was really interesting. Just kind of learning about. Because she was in the Olympics before like attempting this, and just kind of learning about the history of like swimming across the English Channel and just what went into like the prep for that. It made for a really interesting story, and it's just a cool look into history. I got really into the story afterwards and just kind of reaching it, and
you're like, you know what? I'm gonna get into swimming.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna get in shape to swim across the English Channel.
Yeah, probably not.
Never.
I feel like that's how I would feel after watching. Like, should I do that?
Right. It's like maybe I could try that. But it was really good, really well made. I mean, it was like knowing nothing about the story, like I was just surprised by that piece of it. So it was good.
Do you know how you can watch it now? Is
I think it's on Netflix still, maybe.
Okay, nice.
Either that or Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. My hidden gem, I literally, until this moment, I was going back and forth between a couple. But since you threw out a documentary, I'm going to throw out a documentary too. So this was a Netflix documentary called Daughters. Has anybody heard of that?
Mm-mm.
No. So basically, it's following a group of daughters whose all their fathers are incarcerated. They're in the same jail. They're in the same prison. And what happened was one of the daughters wanted to do a dance because a father-daughter dance because they hadn't been able to do that. So basically they put together this sort of father-daughter dance so that all the daughters could go see their dads and actually like dance with them and talk with them for like a couple hours. And it just follows that for, a week. And it's interesting because some of the daughters are like, I don't want to talk to him. He didn't care about me enough to stay in my life, so I don't want to talk to him. But then, and then some people are like, oh, I really want to see him. It's really interesting. A lot of interviews with the daughters, and it's very interesting to hear like how they're feeling. And I think it even spans over a year. So there's a lot of things that change. And then we see it happen, and it's really touching. I mean, yeah, I was definitely tearing up for sure. But it was really,
Crying
really
like
good.
a baby.
Crying like a baby for sure. But very good. And
What was that shot in like what's that style where like
Verite?
yeah, verite?
No, cause I don't think so. Because there was interviews, but it was, now that you say that, it was very artsy. There was a lot of, which I appreciated. There was a lot of like, shots of leaves in the sun and like, which can get annoying. But I thought it was really cool. And a lot of slow mo stuff. Like they were doing like what do you call it? Hopscotch or like jump rope, and it was like slow mo. It was kind of cool. It felt very cinematic, I would say. So yeah, so that was my hidden gem, daughters.
Nice.
Dan, we are on. What are we on?
Worst of the year.
Worst of the year. Oh boy.
You guys will not have heard of this. Jess and I watched this. I would have never watched it had it not been for Jess and having her girlfriends over for like.
It's a rom-com.
Yeah,
Rom-com?
it's a rom-com.
Oh, just you wait.
It's called the Merry Gentleman.
Great name.
The log line, oh my God, you're going to love this. To save her parents' small town performing venue, AKA bar, a former big city dancer decides to stage an all-male Christmas theme review. Is it review? Review. So,
like a dance show?
yeah, like
a dance
adult men dancing.
It's like male burlesque.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
Okay. Gotcha.
Do I need to say more? Shirtless men in their
Probably, yeah,
40s and
keep talking.
50s dancing at the small town bar to save Christmas. Corny, predictable, poor acting, a not so classic Hallmark-esque movie.
He did forget to mention that Chad Michael Murray
Oh.
stars in this.
Okay.
Which one was
So
he?
that makes it different.
The really hot one.
Was he the older one?
He was the love interest
Ah.
of the main character.
See, I thought the younger guy who was shredded was probably the more eye candy than whoever that lead actor was. Yeah.
I don't disagree. This is funny because this is exactly what I was talking about. I was having a Christmas sleepover with my girlfriends, and we're gonna go watch a movie. And Dan was like, "So what are you guys gonna watch?" And we were like, "I don't know." We're like deciding, and then I was like, Dan's not gonna want to watch this," and so we land on that movie. And then Dan's like, I'm not going to watch it. Literally sat through the entire movie. Nobody forced him to sit there through the whole thing, by the way.
It was funny. We were making fun of it.
Yeah, right. It's one of
It's not because I wanted to see the shirtless guys and I was enthralled by that.
He's like, totally not why. Like, I don't even know who Chad Michael Murray is. He's the blonde one, right?
I definitely don't have a poster of him on the wall.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. I mean, it was really cheesy. And I think the person that recommended it thought it was going to be something totally different.
Oh my God.
But we did kind of watch it as a joke to be like,
Right.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You
that's
get all
always
this.
fun, right?
Yeah.
If you can joke about it so bad it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fun. Okay. What about you?
This is worst of the year.
Yes.
Oh,
Worst of the year.
my worst of the year was Long Legs, and I'm saying that with my whole chest. So I'm a huge horror film fan. I love horror. I had heard from not just one, but two or multiple people in my life that I trust with movie recommendations. Like, this is so scary. I couldn't even sleep when I went home. And I said, perfect. That's exactly what I want to see. I don't even know what it was about. I can't even give you a log line because it was about trying to catch a serial killer.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It was like kind of crime, kind of horror, but the entire time they were plot holes. There were plot holes that didn't make sense. I'm like, this didn't line up with something else. I don't know. It was slow. It was boring. It was a waste of my money. I went to watch it in theaters. It was not scary. And on top of that, it was just boring.
What did you think of Nicolas Cage's performance?
whatever. Okay,
Did you
yeah,
watch it,
little
Adam?
spooky.
I did watch this. Yes.
He did a little. He had a little spooky moment. Okay, so it lasted like 20 seconds. I wanted more. I was like, really? That was spooky?
Right.
I literally debriefed with my friend that I went with, and I was like, did we just watch the same movie? Like, I don't even feel scared one bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was scary. No, it was creepy.
Well, there were some jump scares, which I think is so cheap. If you
Right.
got to have a jump scare, sorry, cheap.
Yeah.
Don't come
Yeah.
talk to me with no jump scares. Yeah, you got me. Sorry, my human reflex to jump.
I
Yeah.
also am opposed to jump scares unless they like do a great job of building tension and suspense and like it feels purposeful, not cheap.
And it's not just like a loud noise. It's
Yeah.
like
Right.
it's maybe it's like those really slow scenes where they pan and it's
Yeah, I mean,
dark and you're
right.
totally not expecting it. So you
There's
just
so much
jump.
anticipation, like something's gonna happen, but they like
Yeah,
they
really
build
build it up.
build it
Yeah.
up well.
Yeah, so I wasn't even creeped out. I was like, okay, Nicolas Cage having his little prosthetic spooky little moment.
moment, yeah.
Good for him. I don't know. Expand your range, I guess.
But Nick Cage is always Nick Cage, isn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah, he's weird. He's definitely weird in this. Yeah, it's more of like a weird thriller. Or it's not really a horror.
Not a
movie.
horror movie.
I mean,
no.
I
the
wasn't
last
thrilled.
act does have. Well, I'm just saying that's what it's trying to be. Yeah.
It was
you-
trying to be
did you
more
like it?
complicated than it needed to be.
I liked it, but I probably liked it for reasons that maybe you're not necessarily looking for. Because I thought it was really awesome filmmaking. Like cinematography was amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I thought it was one of the best cinematography films of the year. I really liked the aspect of her, like the detective having like telepathy abilities, but they didn't do anything with it. So I wanted that to be like more a part of it. So I was like, okay, she can like see the future kind of, but they didn't do anything with that. You probably don't even remember that.
No,
part,
I
'cause
do, but it wasn't telepathy. It was part of the like. I mean, without a spoiler, it was part of. It wasn't telepathy. It was
Not-
coming from
right,
a
but
source.
some sort of telepathy maybe is not the right word, but some sort of like mental ability, like
Yeah.
power. But they didn't like hardly do anything with it. Yeah, I thought it was creepy. Yeah, I liked it. I did like it, but I didn't think it was amazing by any means. So
It was a lot of hype online about
there was.
it, and
It
I was
seemed
like,
like a lot of hype.
"Are we all watching the same cut here?"
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. People like weird sometimes. Maybe that's
People like Nick Cage.
Yeah,
I feel like-
it's probably just all the. Oh yeah, people.
feel
love,
like the
people
internet
love
loves
Nick Cage.
Why?
Because he's weird. Because he does so many movies and he does weird roles. And
Yeah.
he's kind of like. He's like, I don't care. I'll do whatever movie. you give me."
Right.
I just saw a video of Nicolas Cage walking like in LA, and there was the wildfires in the background. And I was like, "Why is this on my For You page? What?"
Oh, yikes. Okay.
It's because you watched that movie, maybe.
He's trying to find the national treasure. I don't know.
Weird is in, I guess.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. My biggest, or where are we at? Worst
Worst of
movie?
the-
Yeah,
worst of
worst
the year,
movie.
yeah.
So my worst movie was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire
Wow.
Sequel.
sequel.
I forgot that came out this year.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the first one, so it's partly my fault, probably.
The what is so like the first of
So
the new
first of
ones
this
you're
new
saying?
series. Yeah, I mean, obviously I've seen the original Ghostbusters,
Yeah.
so I was like, I'll go see it and see what it's like. And I went with friends, so it was still kind of fun to see, but definitely like the worst movie I've seen in theaters this year. Like I just didn't connect with any of the characters. There's so many characters in the movie. And like half of them, which partly, again, probably my fault because I didn't see the first one, but half of them have no character development whatsoever. So it's like, who are these people? Nothing happened in the story with them, but there were just so many characters. It was hard to follow. They had obviously like original cast cameos. Don't want to spoil who, but you can probably guess.
Sure.
Um,
So cameos that weren't in the first remake.
I don't know. Maybe
didn't
they
watch
were.
it, right?
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
But it's just like the classic like Hollywood. Oh, we're gonna remake this movie, and here's these things you love from the original,
Yeah.
just dropped in here, and they're
Yeah.
not gonna have anything to do with the story really. We're just
Giving the people
we're
what
just
they
giving
want.
them what
Yeah.
they want, and it was a CGI fest, and man, it was not good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I
that's mine.
believe you.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
That's mine. Maybe I
Um,
need to watch the first one at some point, but probably won't.
Probably not. Okay. Jared, mine is similar to yours, but you're going to be mad at me for it, I think. Worst of the year, I thought was Beetlejuice.
Oh man.
And here's the thing. All of my bad movies, like my bottom 5 movies, are all really well-made movies and pretty good acting. So it's kind of crazy that all these terrible movies, at least the ones that I watch, are like really well made still.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice, very well made.
Yeah.
Love the, the special effects, practical effects is all good. It was just the first hour I was like, okay, there could be something here. And then it just, where it went, I was like, I don't care. Because there was just like, there was two bad guys. One of the bad guys is like, they're hardly telling her story. And I'm just like, okay, why do I care about that? And why is there two bad, I should say, antagonists is what I should say. Why is there two things going on? And it did feel very like, it's pretty much not beat by beat, but a lot of the same things like that are happening. Like they have to call him Beetlejuice because they need his help. And then he wants to marry Lydia again. It's the same thing as the first movie. And everything in the last hour, I was like, this is not what I want. So it just was not good.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't hear great reviews about it. I didn't watch it because I was a little scared because I love the first one or like the original.
Yeah. And
you
like the original
it's
too.
Jared's
I like the original,
favorite
yeah.
movie of the year.
we haven't found that out yet. I mean, it's number 6 on highest box office. So obviously people watch, but that's the thing. I think people are watching these because they're curious. Is it going to be good or bad?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they like it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why it's interesting.
Again, like, do we need a sequel to Beetlejuice? No, we definitely don't.
Yeah.
Out of all the sequels this year, it was the one I was entertained the most by, I feel like. I agree with you. The end, like the last third of the movie, I have huge problems with. Like it did not end well. I really like a lot of the build up, and I feel like out of all the movies, like some of the throwbacks worked better in this one, and there was some like creative stuff they had to do for certain reasons that I don't want to really get into, but they couldn't bring back some original cast members. And I just thought it was
that was weird.
Interesting but weird. I mean, it was very Tim
weird.
Burton-y the way they kind of went around like not being able to bring back some of the original people.
But my thing with that is, again, like, so we could probably say it, but I won't. Whatever. Original cast, is canceled basically in real life, so they didn't want to bring him back. But then somehow the whole movie was about him still.
Yeah.
Why? Just get rid of him. We don't need to be like about this character, making the character feel like they were like, oh, he's such a good, I don't want to spoil, but such a good person. And I'm just like, just cut him out of the movie.
Right.
Like, it made no sense to me.
Right.
Anyway.
I also heard that like Lydia's character development didn't even line up with like who she would have been
True.
or how she was in
I
the
felt
first
that
movie.
way.
Where I was like, what?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were meant to do that. She just kind of like weak and soft and like letting people boss her around. Maybe that was the point that they were trying to make. They were trying to make her like get back to how she was. But yeah, she felt like the mom from Stranger Things, honestly. She just felt like
that's what somebody else
she
said.
just felt like to me.
I don't know. That's what happens. That's what adulthood does to you.
Yeah, maybe.
It takes your spirit.
Maybe so. But anyway, it just didn't. I think it's so low because I had high hopes for it.
Sure.
And it did not reach it. So,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what it was. All right, here we go. Last one, best of the year.
Last one,
Wait,
best
I've
one.
got some sound effects.
Oh,
Let's see.
sound effects.
Ooh.
Nope, that was the laugh track. That was laugh track.
Creepy
I
laughing.
think there's a drum roll. Nope.
Oh, that's rock.
Best of
We
the
should
year.
use that one. Here we go. Oh,
It's gonna be the very last one.
Oh, I thought there was a drum roll. But
Apparently not.
Well, the clapping is kind of
All right, here's our clap. Woo! Best of the year for Dan.
And the Oscar goes to.
Best of the year, Dune Part 2, hands down. Easy decision. We all know what Dune Part 2 is. I think one of the best modern sci-fi epics, in my opinion. I love the world building. It's a cinematic masterpiece. Amazing to experience in IMAX in theater. Like probably my favorite movie experience I've ever had.
cool.
Haven't seen a lot of like. So I was talking to someone. I can't remember who it was, but you hear a lot of people who are maybe in their 40s that are filmmakers or 50s. They're like, I went to the theater. I saw Jurassic Park in theater.
Right.
I saw Star Wars in
Like
theater.
these classic
I
movies.
saw, some of these classics that really were groundbreaking, and they're like, and that made me want to, or Lord of the Rings or whatever. That made me want to be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And like I'd never seen anything like it before. Personally, I've never really had an experience like that, going to the movies and seeing a movie where it was like so impactful. That movie was probably the closest I've ever gotten to being like, wow, like that. What did I just watch? That was amazing. That inspires me to like want to make films.
So you're saying the first one?
Dune Part 2.
Or you're saying specifically the second one?
Specifically the second one.
Interesting.
Yep. I actually didn't see Dune Part 1 in theater.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Dune Part 2 specifically. Cinematography, sound design, VFX, everything amazing. Got so many chills throughout. Yep.
Cool.
It was really good. And I'm not like a super like going to the movie theater just to watch for like the big sound effects and stuff. If anything, Dan was like, you need to bring your high fidelity earplugs.
I bought her high fidelity earplugs so that I could bring her to IMAX and she wouldn't get mad at me.
Well, because he
Loudest
watched
theater,
it a
yeah.
second time with me. So he went first with his friend,
right.
and then he
Yeah.
was like, you need to go see it, but bring your earplugs. And I was like, okay. But yeah, I agree. It was great. I loved it.
Cool.
Am I going next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although, can I interject here? I was gonna ask if anybody else has a movie like that where they were like, I mean, maybe not. I want to be a filmmaker, but maybe like, do you guys all have a movie that you remember? Like, now I look at movies differently. Jared.
Yes.
Ooh.
I do. Lord of the Rings, obviously,
Okay.
is a big one from as a kid. Is like seeing that in the theater was that
You
experience.
saw it in the theaters?
Yeah.
Your parents let you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was one of the first like PG-13.
Well, we're
movies I
older
was
than you
able to-
remember.
Yeah.
That's true.
It was one of the first PG-13 movies I was allowed to see.
Came out in 2003.
Rock and roll, baby.
2001.
2001.
Yeah, it was
How
Fellowship.
old were you?
I was in 4th grade.
Rock and
Younger than
roll.
13. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm like, your parents let you watch that?
Yeah, they did. They didn't let me watch Harry Potter, but they let me watch that, which is interesting.
Very
but
rock and roll.
Funny.
but yeah, that's probably a big one. Seeing that in the theater was amazing. Another movie of mine that really got me into filmmaking is Signs. Because it terrified me. That's the first movie I can remember watching as a kid that just absolutely freaked me out. And going through that experience, like, oh, I want to make this kind of movie, or just make movies that have that like emotion and experience.
I'm glad we watched that in our backyard movie night that you came to.
Yeah, we did.
That was that wasn't even the main
Right.
movie. We just jumped into that one
Yeah.
as a double feature.
Yeah.
Did you have one?
Well, I'm not a filmmaker, but I
Yeah.
would say I can't remember the early ones, but I would say probably Inception was the first one where I was like,
Yep.
whoa, the magic of cinema, or like,
Right.
whoa, the things beyond our imagination of what, not even just like in, the whole premise of the movie, but like what we imagine is even possible through cinema, like storytelling. I thought that was crazy. And then probably like Interstellar after that, where I'm like,
Yeah.
mind is just blown.
Yeah, that's a good
Interstellar
one.
was definitely one of
Another.
the other. Although I still think Dune was more impactful than Interstellar, but Interstellar I was like, whoa, what did I just
Yeah.
watch?
Yeah.
Nice. For me, it was Saving Private Ryan because the beach of Normandy where they're just they're fighting on the beach and it's like 30-minute scene and it's all handheld.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I was thinking, I was like, how are they filming this? And I was pretty young, and and it was just like, it was all handheld. It was all just like following POV, like in the moment of basically.
And your
terrible
parents let you
war.
watch that movie too? You were like not even 13 at that point.
I don't know how old I was.
It came out in 2001.
Yeah. I was able to watch that one too.
I mean, first of all, they probably didn't know I was watching it. But
You see, my parents, very religious household, they're like, you will not watch that.
yeah.
You weren't allowed to watch Harry Potter either, I don't think.
No,
Yeah.
witchcraft and wizardry.
Yep.
But anyway, that was Saving
Yeah.
Private Ryan for me.
He's not a Christian.
The ironic part, though, when Saving Private Ryan came out, in the church that I grew up in, they played the opening scene or part of it
Yeah.
during a church service. No, it wasn't a church service. I don't know. They somehow incorporated it into it because it was so raw. It was so whatever. They were trying to reiterate a point.
Wait, what are we
and
talking about
and
here?
then I wasn't allowed to watch it as a kid, yet somehow it's being
That's
used in church. It was
Kind of surprising.
weird.
though.
I know it is surprising because it's so gruesome and raw. And,
But I think that was part of it. It felt real. It felt like that's what it would
well, no one
feel
had
like.
seen a war film like that.
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Oh, it was
exactly.
gory.
Oh yeah, bloody.
I thought we were talking sexy stuff.
No,
Okay.
no, bloody and
It's
gory.
very gory.
I see.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, back to your best movie of the year.
Okay. And the Oscar goes to
Oh, here we go.
The Society of the Snow. Technically, I thought it came out in 2023, but Adam here corrected me and said that in the US it did come out in 2024.
Yeah, it was January 4th on Netflix. So
Yes.
just
Just
sneaked in.
made it.
And it was released in December 22nd, so basically 2024 was its first release. So
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know what this is about a Uruguayan flight that went down, and it's based on a true story. This happened in real life.
Uruguayan for
I was gonna
those
say you
who
said
don't
that
speak
so
Spanish.
elegantly.
Yeah,
What did I say?
You just said it.
You
with a
pronounced it
proper accent.
properly. Yeah.
So this flight crashes in the Andes Mountains. It's I think it's a whatever. It's a sports team.
They're rugby
players.
I
It's a
believe,
rugby
yes.
team. And so the plane goes down, and the whole movie is about them surviving in the Andes and how they survive out of it, or who survives and how. It is an incredibly touching story, and I think I'm a huge fan of movies that do a lot with a little. I think Dan and I differ in that he loves movies that are visually stunning, visually stimulating, visually shocking,
Yeah,
and
like
pushing
big,
the envelope on things, which I do too. Like, who doesn't? But I love when a story can do so much with storytelling that it doesn't need to fall on that stuff. And of course, there's like great graphic or like great visuals and like cinematography in this too, because they're out in the mountains and there's like a lot of crazy stuff that happens. But it was so, you're just there emotionally raw with them. Like, I cried.
No pun intended.
I feel like I went through so many emotions watching this. The acting was out of this world. It made me like it was one of those moments again where I'm like, oh my God, this is art. This is the art of filmmaking, especially doing justice to a true story that, by the way, has been told over and over again since it happened. I think this happened in the 60s or 70s. There's been a ton of documentaries. There's been a ton of interviews that these real people gave afterwards. And it's a long movie, but it's so worth it. I think everybody should watch it. It's about like the spirit of humanity.
They got, is it snubbed? Is that the word?
They
Snubbed?
did.
At the Oscars last year. They should have
like
won.
they didn't.
They should have
and
got
they
Best
were,
Internet.
by the way, only
Best International.
nominated for Best International
Yeah,
Film.
crazy they weren't nominated for Best
Do you know
International.
who? Do you know who won? Over
It was the Triangle of
Sadness.
Sadness won.
Gotcha.
No, not the one where it's in Germany and like they're right next to a Nazi camp.
That was an amazing movie. I'm blanking on the name. Yes, what was that called?
Close.
You remember it?
It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't
yes.
remember.
I don't know.
Anyway, continue. I'll search it.
Yeah,
Zone
they got
of
snubbed.
Zone of
Zone of
Silence.
Interest.
Or Zone of Interest.
Zone
yeah.
of Interest.
Zone
That
of
was an
Interest.
amazing movie, I have to say.
I don't know. I didn't watch it, but this is one of those movies that I feel like has stayed with me. I know it's only been a year since I watched it, but I feel like it's stayed with me. I think about it every like once in a while, and it moves you in such a like, I don't know. It's incredible what the human spirit and like the human will can survive.
Yeah, and it's also just about like friendship too, and like how far you'll go
camaraderie
to save your friend. And
You saw it, right?
I did see it. Yeah, I liked it quite a bit.
I haven't seen it. No.
It's so
you
good.
gotta
I think
see
it's
it.
a must see.
And you should watch the behind the scenes, behind the scenes of how they like made like the crash scene and some of the other like this avalanche scene that happens and like all of, it's crazy how they did it and small budget, like it was so good.
Oh, it was incredible. I love it. I love it. I love it. It might be more than just the best of the year for me. This is probably in like my top 5.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Wow. Cool.
Well, I will have to watch it.
Yeah, no, it was very good. I agree.
My best of the year.
No.
Woo!
Yeah, I was waiting for
Forgot
it. Saw this movie 3 times in the theaters. It was Dune 2.
Yeah.
Dune Part 2. I'm with Dan. It was amazing. I'm a huge fan of the series. I'm a huge fan of the books, I should say. So for me, like Part 1, I was so excited to see that in the theaters. It was probably my most anticipated movie of that year. Was it 2022 or 2021?
Yeah, one of those.
One of
Yeah.
those, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most anticipated movie of that year. I didn't know it was a Part 1.
Right.
So I think I found out like right before I saw it, and then I was like, oh no, it's only gonna be half of the first book, and it was all the build up to like the best parts of the book, and I was so excited for like to see the best parts of the book. So Dune 2, most anticipated movie of the year, blew me away. It was amazing. I'm with Dan. It was like the best theater experience I think I've had in like years. Cool. So that's my top one.
The theater experience where you can feel the bass
Mhm.
in your
Yep.
throat and in your chest, and it's
Yeah.
like,
I want to be shaking after the film because I've been rattled so much from the
Right.
audio.
Yeah, and I mean, reading the book is just like the book's insane. It's like, how do you adapt something like this? And Danny, he did it. He made it work.
That's what a lot of people
crazy.
say. Like the book seems impossible to adapt. So,
Yeah, and I mean, he had to change a couple things, but he didn't change a lot. Obviously, like the book goes into more detail, but man, he made it work. Such a good movie.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Here's the final one. Best movie of the year for me, Civil War. So
Really? I haven't seen
War,
it.
I haven't seen
Yeah.
it. Have you seen it?
No.
I gotta say the name of
not
our show
seen
as often as possible. So this came out earlier this year, which is why some people might kind of forget about it. Alex Garland's director, so Annihilation.
Godzilla? Did he do Godzilla?
I don't think he did Godzilla. He did Annihilation, he did Ex Machina, if you know that one.
Yeah.
Men last year, if you saw that one. Anyway, and Kirsten Dunst is the main character, and then there's a younger woman who played Priscilla Presley in the Priscilla movie, and I can't remember what her name is, but they were both really good. The premise is there's a civil war happening in the U.S., and we're following a group of photographers as they're basically traveling across the country to try to get to the White House to do an interview with the president. That's the premise. And I think a lot of people thought that it was going to be very political and very like have a lot of opinions, and that's not what it was at all. It was actually kind of took the idea of being a photographer and just capturing what's in front of you, but not having any sort of, you can't say your opinion about it. You can't focus on one thing and not focus on, it was just very, it challenged the idea of being a photographer in war and like, should you just take pictures or should you maybe help out or should you be mad about what you're seeing, that sort of thing. So that's a big aspect of it. And it was disturbing in the way that it felt very close to home and real. And it was an amazing experience watching it. And I was just like, wow, that one hit hard. And it does get like, there's one scene that I'm like, whoo, that's a little much, or not a little much, but like, wow, that really disturbed me in a way you wouldn't expect. If you've seen the commercial, Jesse Plemons, a guy, he's just basically just got an assault rifle. He's wearing like pink glasses.
Yep.
And they basically show the whole scene in the commercial, but he's so scary because he's just like, so what side are you on? And they're like, well, we're just photographers. Yeah, but what side are you on? And it just very tense the whole time. This is very good. Very good.
I'll have to watch it. I'm one of those people that was like, I don't know. This feels like it's just kind of like a commentary on like U.S. politics right now. But it sounds like it's not.
I mean, it is, but it doesn't take a side.
But that's not like the focus of like.
It doesn't take a side. And I mean, yeah, it's a war movie in that it's an anti-war movie, which most war movies are actually anti-war movies. So yeah, it's showing the terrible things that could happen in a civil war. So in that sense, it takes a side, but but the main characters aren't necessarily like taking any side. So
it's not like, oh, this is a Republican or this is a Democrat,
No.
right? But it's showing what could happen if, this political dividedness that we're experiencing in the U.S. right now, if it continues to like escalate and
But what's really interesting is it's almost like a different world because the alliance is California and Texas. They're on the same side. So you're like, that's kind of weird. So it's like it is set in this kind of like alternate world. And yeah, they don't say Republican or Democrat. I don't believe in the movie at all. It's not calling people out. You're just kind of like seeing, well, this person's doing this person's doing that. Okay, I kind of get where
What the
Which
divide
seems like
is,
it'd be a tricky balance, especially with the state of affairs today.
Yeah. Although I will say the president is pretty obvious who they're trying to mimic for the president.
Right.
It's basically Trump, but although I wouldn't, anyway, I won't go down that route.
Now I
but-
want to watch and see like what,
Yeah, and
because that feels like hard to do. That feels like a hard movie to make.
Yeah, and I think it was a hard movie to get people to like just because they were expecting something and it was something totally different.
Right.
It's a little more artsy than maybe what the normal public was looking for. So, but I liked it.
Civil War. We'll have to watch that.
cool.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Any shout outs?
Or
Oh,
honorable
that's
mentions.
right.
Anybody
That's
has,
right.
or, honorable mentions?
Anything that you wanted to just shout out?
My two shout outs, Deadpool, Wolverine. You know
Alright,
what?
I'm surprised it didn't.
I
get called out.
I thought that was hilarious. I think I was laughing through half of the film. it's stupid fun. You know, it's exactly what you'd expect from Deadpool. I love all the different like callbacks that happen in it, the chemistry between Deadpool and Wolverine. It's a lot of fun. It's hilarious. So if you haven't seen it, it's going to entertain you, unless you just like don't like Deadpool or his humor, which some people don't.
Yeah.
And then my other shout out is Beverly Hill Cops. Axel.
That was funny. That one was funny.
Nice.
I've never seen Beverly Hill Cops, but it was on Netflix. And it was hilarious. You don't have to see the originals to like think it's funny and have a good time. Watched it with my dad. I don't remember when we watched it.
Had he seen the original?
Yeah,
he
so it was a
had.
good like intergenerational film because it was
Yes.
funny even if you haven't watched it and you don't have the context.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but basically this cop returns to Beverly Hills after his daughter's life is threatened for a family reunion that includes old pals, and they uncover a conspiracy that's happening. So anyway, it's fun.
One thing what I think is so interesting about these like remakes of old movies, it seems like the people who haven't seen the originals like it better than the people who have seen the originals. That's my take on it because it's so repetitive that the people who love the originals are like, I already saw that. But if you're new to it, you're like, oh, this is kind of good because you're getting
You're getting it for
the
the first
little
time,
bit of what was the magic the first time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My dad thought it was funny. So
Okay, he liked it
He's
too.
also like he's also so not effortlessly funny, but I just feel like I don't know. He doesn't try hard. And this is probably why I'm a Deadpool hater is because I just think that Ryan Reynolds like tries so hard to be funny. And I'm like, to me, humor is so like you suck the humor out of any joke when you're like trying so hard. And anytime I watch Eddie Murphy in anything, I'm just like, all right, here I go again. I'm going to laugh my butt off.
yeah.
Yeah. He hasn't been doing a ton of movies lately, so it's cool that he came back for that. Yeah, nice. Did you have
I
shout-outs?
had an honorable mention.
Yeah.
I had two. Maria, which is the Angelina Jolie film that came out, I think, late 2024, towards the end of the year. And it's a biopic of Maria Callas. And she was an Italian opera singer. Or I'm sorry, I think she was Greek, but she was like US born. Anyway, love Angelina Jolie. The setting is like beautiful. It's in Paris. So like the whole film is beautiful. And then my horror film shout out is The First Omen. I thought it was spooky. It was good. And it's the prequel to the whole Omen series. It's like dates all the way back to the 70s or something. So I thought that was a good scare.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine is The Substance.
What is
Okay.
that?
The Substance
Me and Jared
is
have gone down this route recently.
yeah. It's wild, man. I don't know. It's so it's about Demi
Demi.
Demi
Yeah.
Lovato.
Demi
No,
Moore.
Demi Moore.
Demi
Oh.
Moore. Demi
Demi
Moore.
Lovato. No, it probably could have worked.
I don't know. I heard you say Demi, so
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like
yeah.
Demi Lovato.
No, Demi Moore. She plays an actress who's getting older, and she finds out about this substance that apparently can make you younger. I don't want to say too much more beyond that, but ends up taking it, of course, and things get crazy, man. It is a wild movie. It's very gory, I will say
Yeah.
that. So, also, yeah, I mean, it's disgusting. So,
Yeah, it's like gore.
it's
gore
like body
It's
horror.
like
Body
body,
horror.
Yeah.
body horror.
It's very much body horror. If you're gonna see it, don't eat before the movie.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much more
Yeah,
than that,
no.
But it was
the
good?
filmmaking was really good. Yeah, it's a French
really,
director.
Really good filmmaking.
Yeah, it's French director. I don't know her name, but really great filmmaking. It's kind of set in reality, but has kind of an alternate reality feel to it going on too.
And it's kind of a comedy in
Yeah,
a way because
yeah.
it was nominated
Yeah.
for like a best comedy movie.
It was
And then
for
we
the
wa-
Golden Globes.
and- for the Golden Globes. I mean, you watch it and we're like, okay, yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that. Like it was comical.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I did like it. This was one of my shout outs too.
Wow.
It is weird. So I'm just saying
weird,
you
man.
gotta be into that. You gotta be ready for it. It's
There is a
very
there is
gory,
a
very weird.
good amount of nudity too. So just
There's a good amount of nudity, yeah. But it was really good filmmaking and just the premise of I'm old now, I want to look like I used to look. Everybody can relate to that.
Yeah.
So it just the through line was so relatable and really good filmmaking.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah, it's
liked
like a commentary on like women's beauty standards or
Yeah.
like unrealistic body and whatever
Yeah.
standards.
Yeah, exactly.
And it did not end the way I was expecting. So I was pleasantly
Ooh.
surprised.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to watch
I was very
it now.
surprised. I should say.
But just be prepared.
Be prepared.
If you watch it, it gets crazy.
Yeah, and
I
you
feel like I'm
probably
either
won't.
gonna
Yeah.
love it or hate
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Like there's not gonna be.
It's one of those.
Yeah,
It's one of
it
those.
definitely is. And just don't eat before you watch it.
What's so funny is I started this movie while I was eating lunch, and I was like, I should not have done that.
Oh my god!
But it does take a while to get
Yeah.
really gross. I'd say
Yeah.
like the first 2/3 are not too bad.
And Demi
honestly.
Moore won a Golden
She
Globe.
won the
That's
Golden
right,
Globe
she did.
for it. Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, she was very good.
yeah. So that would be mine.
Yeah, just that one.
That
That's
one,
the Okay. I was gonna call out The Substance, but we talked about that. I watched the it's just called Conclave.
Yeah.
This is being nominated for some awards too. Oh, yep, it's on our picture right there. Yeah. So basically, the Pope dies, and this is all about how they vote to get the next Pope.
Oh, that sounds really interesting.
It's really interesting because it's filmed as a kind of a mystery. It's basically Game of Thrones in the Vatican. So everybody's trying, like, there's a group of people that want to be the next Pope, so they're talking to people.
Politicking.
They're politicking. They're bribing.
Which that's exactly what's going to happen when Pope Francis dies.
Could be. I just really liked it because it I will say, I mean, some people are not gonna like. If you're really religious, you're probably not gonna like this movie. It's calling out a lot of things in religion that maybe aren't great, and it's putting a light to some of those things. So if that sounds like not what you want to watch, don't watch it.
If you don't like knowing the truth about bad things, then it's not for you.
Yeah, but I really like that aspect of it, and it's kind of just calling out like these systems that are in place in our society. We kind of sometimes think, oh, everybody who's in these are great people, but that's just not the truth. So I really like that aspect of it. That's all I'll say about it. That was very good, very good.
Didn't I really enjoyed the Two Popes? I don't know if you ever saw
Yeah.
that.
I did.
So
I
it's
really
nice.
like that one too. Yeah,
Loved the
Which
Two
you
Popes.
get a little sneak peek of some of that.
yeah. I really like that one too. Yeah, agreed. And then quick ones: a complete unknown, the Bob Dylan biopic with
Yeah.
Timothée Chalamet. Really didn't expect to like this one, but I don't know. There's
neither.
something about it that it's not your typical thing. It's kind of like. It's just kind of like at this level the whole time, but man, the music's good. There's a ton of music.
I have been obsessed with
And
Bob
I'm
Dylan
kind
since
of
watching
going,
it.
going back over my Bob Dylan
Yeah.
tracks. And
Yeah, same.
It was just kind of entertaining. He's just a really interesting person.
Yeah.
And I liked it quite a bit. Last one I'm going to throw out there is the most fun I had this year in a movie, Trap by
M. Night.
M. Night Shyamalan. This movie is fun. I don't know why people don't like this. It's basically the premise is dad takes a daughter to a concert. The dad is a serial killer, and this is not spoiling because it's literally they say it in the trailer and they say it in the first 2 minutes. And they tried to trap him in the concert, and he's just trying to escape. And it's fun. It's really fun, and it doesn't all take place in the concert. It goes to a different place after it, and all that stuff. I really just had a good time with it. I was pleasantly surprised. So.
Anyone wanted to shout out Megalopolis?
Didn't see it, so
Yeah,
I can't.
You have crickets over there?
Yeah, right. I didn't see it, but
Didn't sound good.
I only know one person who I think liked it. So
I've
One
seen a
person
couple
did.
scenes from it, but
I mean,
that
it
may
looks
be enough.
great.
I don't know.
Visually, it looks great.
Visually,
but-
it's good. Yeah.
yeah. I'm very curious to see how bad it is. But,
Yeah.
I think
That's
that's
it.
it, right? Okay.
lots of that pretty good movies, good movies, and
Yeah.
things. All the stuff you called out at the end, I'm gonna have to check out.
Yeah.
No, I have a list of movies I gotta
Yeah.
watch. now.
Right.
Conclave, I definitely want to watch. That sounds
Yeah.
super interesting.
Yeah. It's good.
So.
Very good acting too. Don't know what we're gonna review next time, but we'll figure
Drop
that
it
out.
in the comments.
Yeah,
Tell
yeah.
us what do
Yeah,
you want
what-
us to review.
I will say 2025 looks like a terrible year for movies. I'm looking at this thing like
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
don't want to watch anything.
Like,
So
what's coming out, man?
it might be a year where we do a bunch of like throwback reviews.
Yeah. There we go.
Let us know. What are you guys excited to watch in 2025? What do you want us to review? We'll be sitting here talking about it
Perfect.
All right. Catch you next time.
on Have You Seen It?
Cut.